She was born into a world of opulence. A Beverly Hills mansion, her first playground, her early steps taken on polished marble. She weighed in on Versace runways, a natural in front of the lens, and was told she had it since kindergarten, that intangible star quality. Life, it seemed, was laid out on a silk carpet, a path paved with privilege and effortless success. Then, one botched moonsault, a moment of miscalculation in a dusty, high-stakes WWE tryout, snapped her tibia in half. And with that sickening crack, it didn't just shatter bone. It shattered every easy-ride narrative the tabloids had ever loved to spin. For most, that's where a legacy ends, a promising career extinguished before it truly ignites. But for Arissa LeBrock, that's precisely where her real story began. Forget the last-name baggage, the whispers of nepotism, the assumed silver spoon. Because what crawled out of that cast, what emerged from the ashes of that devastating injury, wasn't just a survivor. It was a 5'10" submission sniper, a woman with a black belt radar for weaknesses and an unshakable fire in her gut. She had something to prove to every single doubter who ever dismissed her as just another celebrity kid. Today, we're not just telling a story. We're breaking down a phenomenon. We're exploring how the daughter of Hollywood icons Steven Seagal and Kelly LeBrock went from fashion gloss to the gritty, unforgiving world of ground and pound, and why the entire women's division just felt the tremor of a brand new, utterly relentless apex predator. Keep watching, because by the end of this, you won't just understand. You'll feel why promoters are quietly, urgently clearing space at the top of the card for a woman who's barely 20 matches into her professional career, but already feels undeniably, thrillingly inevitable. Intro. Hey everyone, I'm Andy, and welcome back to the channel that treats wrestling not just as a sport, but as the craziest, most compelling real-life movie we all get front row seats to. If you're anything like me, you're here for the origin stories, the sagas that smell more like athletic tape, sweat, and sheer determination than red carpet perfume or Hollywood hype. If that sounds like your kind of narrative, then you, my friend, are absolutely in the right place. So, do me a favor, smash that like button when you hear something that genuinely flips your perception about what it takes to make it in this business. Deal? Cool, let's roll. Silver spoon. Steel nerves. Arissa LeBrock's first crib wasn't just any crib. It was literally nestled within the legendary Warner estate. We're talking 1,000 thread count everything, morning light filtering through ancient trees, and paparazzi occasionally rustling in the rose bushes, hoping for a glimpse of the rich and famous. Her mom, a supermodel, a global icon of beauty and grace. Her dad, the guy who, on screen, could break arms with a glance and kick bad guys into next week, all for a multi-picture deal. So, naturally, the world had her future all mapped out. Cameo roles in blockbuster movies, exclusive fashion lines, perfume endorsements, maybe even a reality show about her glamorous life. That was the script everyone expected her to follow. But Arissa? She had a different vision. Instead of practicing poses for magazine covers, she spent her nights sneaking into the family garage, meticulously stacking couch cushions, and then, with a mischievous grin and a surprising amount of force, elbow-dropping them off the precarious top rope of a lazy boy. Why? Because for her, wrestling wasn't just a passing phase or a quirky hobby. It was a visceral, compelling act of rebellion. While kids her age were posting curated yacht selfies and showcasing designer handbags, Arissa was painstakingly uploading grainy, low-res clips from obscure indie shows. Her caption simple but resolute. Train harder. The obsession wasn't just growing. It was reaching a boiling point. The ultimate tipping point came when she made a decision that stunned everyone. She walked away from a six-figure modeling contract, a guaranteed path to continued luxury, to enroll at the Rhodes Wrestling Academy in Atlanta. No star treatment, no special privileges. Just brutal 5 a.m. sprints, grueling bump drills on a floor that felt suspiciously like concrete, and the relentless pursuit of an impossible dream. Dustin Rhodes, a legend in his own right, still tells the story with a shake of his head and a glint in his eye. First day, he recounts, she walked in, shook my hand, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "Break me down. I don't want favoritism. I want to earn every single thing." That's the precise moment, he says, when you realize that her famous last name wasn't a free ticket, a golden pass. In fact, it was the opposite. It was a giant, luminous target, one she would have to stitch onto her own back and prove, with every fiber of her being, that she deserved to be there, not because of her parents, but in spite of them. The injury that nearly erased her fast forward a few years. The grind had paid off and the call came. An invite-only WWE tryout in Orlando. The air crackled with anticipation, bright lights illuminating every corner of the arena, scouts with clipboards and scrutinizing eyes, and a ring that felt slicker, more unforgiving than a politician's promise. This was it. This was her shot. Arissa, ever the showwoman, decided to go for a flashy moonsault. Middle rope. Half twist. Everything looked clean, perfectly executed, a testament to her burgeoning athleticism, until her left foot, almost imperceptibly, caught the rope on the descent. The snap echoed through the quiet arena like a broken 2-4, a sound that would haunt her for weeks. The diagnosis was brutal. A tibia fracture, 2 torn ankle ligaments, 6 to 8 months minimum on the sidelines. For most prospects, especially at a high-stakes tryout like this, that's a polite "thanks for coming, we'll call you," and by "call you," they mean, of course, never. She spent the next 2 weeks trapped in a suffocating spiral of ice packs, painkillers, and endless Google searches, each query more desperate than the last. Wrestling careers ended by leg injuries, comeback from tibia fracture wrestling, depression. A dark, unwelcome shadow crept in, settling heavily. The mirror reflected not a contender, not a future icon, but a woman trapped in a cumbersome cast, her dreams seemingly shattered alongside her bone. Then came the pivotal phone call, a lifeline thrown into her despair. It was Dustin Rhodes again, his voice firm but empathetic. "Look, Arissa," he said, "you've got 2 choices here. You can quit, blame the universe, and let this be the end. Or you can rehab like an animal, come back stronger, and show up nastier than before." His words were a blunt, powerful translation of a fundamental truth. Icon status isn't handed out. It's forged in fire, and it requires a hell of a lot of scar tissue. She chose option B, of course. She hired a BJJ black belt from Paragon Academy as her secret weapon, turning what could have been a period of defeat into a relentless, intensive lab. She didn't just rehab her leg. She meticulously rebuilt her entire style, pivoting away from high-risk dives and focusing instead on submissions, leverage, and the intricate, unforgiving art of ground control. The injury that was supposed to delete her, to erase her from the wrestling landscape, ended up becoming the crucible, the refining fire that forged the lethal, undeniable version of Arissa LeBrock we're seeing dominate today. All right, quick check-in. Be honest, are you already rethinking every nepotism comment you've ever casually thrown at a second-gen star? Because I know I am. Drop "scar tissue" in the comments right now if you respect that kind of relentless grind, that unshakable dedication, and hit subscribe so you never, ever miss these deep dives into wrestling's most exciting next chapters. Here's where Arissa truly separates herself from the rest of the pack, where she carves out her own unique territory. While plenty of wrestlers will casually add jiu-jitsu to their promo like it's just another sprinkle of glitter, a buzzword to sound tough, Arissa actually lives it. She competes under legitimate IBJJF rules and not just participates. She's medaled at the highly competitive 2022 LA Open, holding her own in the middle heavy division. What does that translate to in the ring? It means she can absolutely, legitimately ankle lock you for real with devastating efficiency, before the referee even has a chance to call for the bell. That undeniable legitimacy, that real-world combat pedigree, gives her matches a completely different texture, a palpable sense of danger that few others possess. She wrestles tall, leveraging her impressive 5'10" frame. Her long limbs are not just for show. They're tools of entanglement, constantly applying hip pressure, creating uncomfortable angles, and threatening knee bars from seemingly innocuous positions. Opponents who step into the ring with her often leave looking like they've just wrestled a giant, incredibly skilled spider, utterly drained and contorted, And her signature spot? It's a modified calf slicer. A move so brutal and visually arresting, fans have already nicknamed it the air trap. It looks like some contorted, impossible yoga pose from hell, a submission that seems to defy human anatomy. Crowds don't just pop, they erupt when she locks it in. Why? Because they've seen enough head scissors and arm drags. They haven't seen a power blossom, a move of pure strength and agility, seamlessly transition into a knee bar that makes even the toughest, most stoic heel tap out not just in pain but in sheer, desperate surrender like a broken faucet. Scouts, those seasoned veterans who've seen it all, are already comparing her presence to prime Nia Jax, that same imposing aura, that undeniable physical dominance that fills the ring. But here's the crucial difference. Arissa possesses the cardio, the technical precision, and the relentless motor to chain wrestle for 15 straight minutes, if not longer, seamlessly flowing from one hold to the next, one strike to another. She's basically what happens when you splice the raw, undeniable dominance of MMA with the intricate, compelling storytelling of old-school professional wrestling. And the resulting chemistry? It's nothing short of explosive. Landscape, October 2023. TNA Impact. It was a dark match, held in a building that seats maybe 3,000 people. But on that night, with the entire locker room gathered, buzzing with curiosity to see the model, it felt like 30,000. Arissa was set to debut against a former Knockouts champion, a seasoned veteran. The script, as it usually goes for a debut, was straightforward. Keep it basic. Protect the champ, get the new talent some exposure, pop the crowd with a few cool moves. Reality, however, had a different script entirely. Mid-match, Arissa called an audible, a spontaneous, audacious deviation from the plan. She slipped out of what looked like a surefire powerbomb, transitioning with lightning speed and surgical precision into a rear-naked choke, locking in body scissors so tight her opponent's breath hitched. The referee, seeing the champ fading fast, had no choice. He waved for the stoppage. The building didn't just pop, it absolutely lost its mind. Suddenly, the whispers turned into shouts. Every single promoter on the East Coast, from tiny independent circuits to burgeoning regional promotions, wanted the submission killer on their card, demanding she be flown in. AEW, never one to miss a seismic shift, booked her just weeks later. Same story. Another dominant win, barely 2 minutes of offense against her. It wasn't just a victory. It was a statement. Fans on Twitter, those notoriously cynical critics, weren't just reacting. They were asking, genuinely, did we just witness the evolution of women's wrestling? The narrative, the entire perception of Arissa LeBrock, flipped overnight. She was no longer the celebrity kid trying her hand at wrestling. She was the new apex predator, a force of nature. Bookers, the gatekeepers of the industry, started whispering about protecting her like it was 1985 Hogan, recognizing that her aura was pure money and her skill set was terrifyingly legitimate. Ratings spiked wherever she appeared. Merch mock-ups leaked within hours of her matches, and wrestling media couldn't quite decide if she was the next Ronda Rousey, a once-in-a-generation fighter, or something entirely new, something we'd never properly categorized. The spoiler: she's both. All right, prediction time, and I want your honest take. How long before she's holding a major world title? Do you think it's under a year, a rapid ascent to the top? Or does she need a bit more seasoning, a few more battles under her belt? In your book. Vote with now or later in the comments. Smash that like button. And do me a huge favor. Share this video with that one friend who still, bless their heart, thinks wrestling's just a soap opera in spandex. They need to see this. Let's be real and address the colossal elephant in the room. Being Steven Seagal's kid in 2024 is, shall we say, complicated. The internet, ever hungry for a punchline, loves to dredge up old memes, and some crowds, trying to be clever, still chant "under siege" at her like it's some original biting insult. But here's the unexpected, brilliant counterpunch. She hasn't run from that lineage. She's weaponized the comparison. Think about her dad's iconic on-screen persona, That cold, unblinking stare, the almost zen-like economy of movement, the sudden, explosive, brutal violence. Arissa's version? It's that same icy, unwavering glare, but the violence she unleashes is a knee bar that folds you like a lawn chair, a submission so precise it feels surgical. Instead of trying to escape the shadow of her famous lineage, she's re-engineered it, transforming a pop culture punchline into a legitimate, terrifying fear factor in the ring. Meanwhile, her mom's modeling genes, that inherent understanding of presence and projection, gifted Arissa with a camera awareness that most indie wrestlers would literally kill for. Every glare, every subtle smirk, every calculated movement hits 4K like it was meticulously storyboarded, perfectly framed for the camera. The result? Mainstream outlets, those publications that typically ignore the niche world of professional wrestling, are now asking, genuinely curious, who's this LeBrock girl submitting people in those wild YouTube clips? She didn't just find fame, she hacked it. She filtered it through the undeniable crucible of legitimate credibility and came out the other side with something profoundly authentic, a rare, precious alchemy in the often manufactured landscape of modern wrestling. Let's be honest, the current women's wrestling landscape, while incredible, is often split into two primary archetypes. You've got your flippy, high-flying technicians who dazzle with acrobatics, and then your horsepower gladiators who dominate with sheer strength. Both are awesome, don't get me wrong, but both, by their nature, leave certain storytelling gaps. A submission-based monster like Arissa provides a crucial third dimension, believable, visceral danger. When Arissa locks in a leg lock or cinches down a choke, crowds don't just react. They buy it as a legitimate match ender. Why? Because her real-world resume, her legitimate grappling medals, screams, "This is real." That unparalleled believability allows promotions to run angles that feel genuinely fresh and impactful, angles centered around injury scares, dramatic medical stoppages, even tense referee reviews. It's fresh narrative fuel for a division that, let's face it, occasionally recycles the same triple threat trope. Beyond the in-ring storytelling, she also broadens the demo. Think about it. MMA fans, those who often dismiss pro wrestling as fake or choreographed, quietly start tuning in, drawn by the undeniable legitimacy of her jiu-jitsu phenom status. They want to see if this BJJ expert can truly adapt her lethal skills to the squared circle. Spoiler alert, she adapts just fine, thank you very much. And those casual eyeballs? They stick around, captivated, when they realize the drama unfolding before them is nothing less than Shakespeare with suplexes. Bottom line, every era, every sport, needs that one transformative figure who forces everyone else to level up, to push their boundaries. Arissa is undeniably that figure, and the ripple effect is already visible in training camps across the country, where green prospects are suddenly, urgently, asking their coaches to add more mat sessions to their regimen. So, let's quickly recap that resume, shall we? At barely 20-something, Arissa LeBrock has already survived a bone-snapping, career-threatening setback. She didn't just recover, she meticulously stitched a wrecked leg into a terrifyingly effective weapon. She's racked up legitimate, hard-earned grappling medals, proving her mettle outside the scripted world. And she debuted like a Category 5 hurricane in both TNA and AEW, leaving a trail of dominant victories and stunned opponents in her wake. She's got the pedigree, yes, but more importantly, she's cultivated the skill set, refined the look, and, most crucially, carries that undeniable chip on her shoulder. That's the intangible quality that separates fleeting novelty acts from enduring legends. So, mark the timestamp now, because in a few short years, when she's headlining major pay-per-views, when she's hoisting championship gold above her head, you'll want the bragging rights of saying, "You saw the rise coming, right here, right now, early." If this channel's mission is truly about spotlighting the next chapters of wrestling lore, the stories that will define generations, then Arissa LeBrock hasn't just written page 1. She's penned the opening chapter of a saga destined for the Hall of Fame. Subscribe right now for more future icon stories, and always remember, sometimes the biggest. Most impactful names in professional wrestling don't come from the pristine performance center. They crawl out of a rehab cage, scarred but stronger, with something fierce and undeniable to prove to the entire world. Thanks for watching, keep debating responsibly, and I'll catch you on the next deep dive.